VimJam 4 is an annual 10-day game jam hosted by 8bits to Infinity and Vimlark in the month of September. Like all 8bits jams, it features a limitation plus a traditional jam theme. In addition to the theme and limitation, for this jam we highlighted 3 diversifiers: In a Song, Shapely, and 2-Button. Jammers were allowed to use as many of the 3 diversifiers as they liked, or none at all. If you're looking for highlights and winners for the jam, you can check out Vimlark's video, which I will link below in the description. For this video, we'll be focusing on the diversifiers and games that highlighted the use of them. So the first diversifier is In a Song, where the limitation was to create a game where the entire gameplay loop occurs within the length of a song. This is most common for rhythm and music games like Dance Dance Revolution or Guitar Hero, but it could apply to any type of game. Out of all the diversifiers, this one had the fewest entries, but let's look at a couple that used the diversifier well. First up, we have Geometry King by Straight Up Gruntled, a land-conquering game where you explore and destroy towers to take over sections of the world. It uses the In a Song diversifier by ending the game when the song ends, 3 minutes and 53 seconds from the game's start. Now, that probably isn't enough time, especially on your first playthrough, to conquer the entire world, but the game allows you to rewind to the most recent checkpoint, keeping all of your major progress so that you can finish within the time limit. Next, we have The Corruptor by Kim's Games. This is a top-down action role-playing game where you shoot monsters with a sword, as you do. And although the gameplay isn't limited to a single song, so it doesn't strictly follow the In a Song diversifier, it does make the song ending a major part of the game. So every time a song ends, a new song begins, and a new effect comes into play, such as increased damage, or increased defense, or healing. Overall, a very unique use of the In a Song diversifier. So the second diversifier we had was Shapely, which is based on our previous shape jams, and this challenged jammers to only use basic geometric shapes to construct the game, such as squares, circles, triangles, and other basic polygons. So let's look at some games that really used Shapely to its fullest effect. Crosslink by Dogveloper has you stuck in the center of a grid where you have to drive back shapes as they approach from all sides by matching their color and shape. The game starts slow, but ultimately ends up frantic as you try to find the right color to clear the highest group. It showcases the Shapely diversifier by limiting all game objects to basic shapes, but they're still easy to distinguish, which is very important. Next, we have Intersection Manager by Sism, where you manually control intersection traffic to pick up diamonds by matching the car color to the diamond. You need to be extra careful because you have a limited time between each pickup to survive. The gameplay starts simple, but quickly becomes a challenge as you manage to scramble and figure out how to clear traffic jams. The core game art is made of rectangles, circles, triangles, and diamonds, so it's a perfect use of the Shapely diversifier, presented in a very clean and interesting way. Next, we have String Theory by Drew V, a puzzle game where you connect the dots to make polygons and match the given pattern. The fill pattern depends on how many lines are in each polygon that you create. At first, it's a simple matching game, but it becomes increasingly complex as you puzzle out how to get an exact match of the image that you're given. There's additional replay value because each level has a par to beat, so you want to try to clear it in the fewest shapes possible. Although some of the visual elements stretch the Shapely limitation, it's clear that the idea of basic shapes was an inspiration for the game mechanic, which is another good way to use diversifiers. Next, we have Torvill by Simon C.B. Navigate a world of colorful checkpoints that attach to you as you get close, but be careful because you might need a specific color to advance. It's a very interesting use of the checkpoints limitation in that they're not simply locations that you pass and respawn when you die. Instead, you actually have to carefully use nearby checkpoints to solve the puzzles. The world is primarily made of basic shapes, but it manages not to feel minimalistic. Our third and final diversifier was 2-Button, based on, of course, 2-Button Jam. To fit this diversifier, the game needed to use only 2 buttons, such as left and right, although you could make more complex controls by allowing both buttons to be pressed or using double taps or holds. Let's look at some games that did well with the limitation of 2 buttons. Checkpoint Lull by Art Surok is a puzzle game where you alternate control between 2 endlessly walking characters and place checkpoints to get them to the win area at the same time. It's a simple premise, but the 3-dimensional layout and handling both characters at once makes for a very mind-bending experience. The puzzles get challenging quickly, but do a good job of making you feel clever for finally figuring them out. The 2 buttons used here are switch and place checkpoint, a very literal interpretation of the 2-button diversifier. Next we have Live Harder by Lenky. Navigate a grim atmospheric world full of checkpoints and danger. This game asks, why even use 2 buttons? You could just have 1. And in this case, the 1 button is to jump. The atmosphere in this game is amazing, reminiscent of Limbo or Inside with a touch of Cannibalt. I particularly enjoyed the ragdolling of the character as they crash into obstacles. Next we have Signal Drift by Hugbug, where you navigate an asteroid field in search of Hallie by following her path. The gameplay is simple with a left and right thruster as the 2 button actions, or press them together to move forward. The controls are challenging as you need to account for drift and be careful not to go too far away from the core path, otherwise you crash into asteroids. Plus, the high quality writing and voice acting, as the mystery unravels, make for a very compelling experience. Next up, we have Traffic Trouble by Jargon. Yeah, another traffic management game. But this time, you're toggling the state of a single traffic light, trying to avoid collisions. The game even includes an interesting twist, where you need to cause a crash to finish a level after you've let enough cars by. And once again, who needs 2 buttons when 1 will suffice? The only action available is to turn 1 traffic light green, and it's all about the timing. Finally, we're going to look at some games that used multiple diversifiers. Jammers weren't limited to a single one, and many went for the challenge of 2 or even all 3. First, we have In Control by Raver NT. The traffic jams continue, but this time you're controlling multiple vehicles and trying to avoid collisions with yourself. This one goes all out, hitting all 5 limitations. There are checkpoints where each vehicle stops to await a command, crossroads in the intersections where you need to avoid collisions, in a song with the game session ending when the music is over, shapely in the use of simple squares, triangles, and circles for most elements, and 2-button with 2 actions of change selected vehicle and rotate. Next we have Isometric Rush by E. Paez Rubio. Jump to avoid obstacles, select the right path, and open gates in this endless runner puzzle game. Once again, 2 buttons is too many for some. This game only uses 1 button for jumping and the rest is timing. The implementation of In a Song is very good in this one, because the song rewinds as needed when you die and return to a checkpoint. So the game really ends when the song ends. Some of the puzzles require death to solve, which is a really interesting use of checkpoints. And finally, we have Redo or Die by Hippie. Navigate a maze-like castle solving puzzles with the use of a mobile checkpoint with a strict time limit. The time limit is the length of an interesting and often intense song, showing the In a Song diversifier, and there are 2 buttons, one for jumping or stopping, and the other for picking up and dropping the checkpoint diamond. This is great because it showcases that you can have context-sensitive actions to get 2 buttons to do even more. The puzzles require clever sequences of jumping, stopping, and moving the checkpoint, and that countdown timer is really intimidating. So that's all for my highlights of the diversifiers in VimJam 4. Of course, there were several games that used diversifiers and didn't make the short list here. It was interesting to see how much traffic management was a huge theme throughout the jam. Probably the first thing people thought of with the Crossroads theme. So thanks everyone for participating in the jam. I really enjoyed all of the games. There were so many great entries, and several that didn't use diversifiers and didn't quite make it to this video. So once again, if you haven't already, check out Vimlark's video highlighting the winners of the jam and his favorite games. Did I miss any really great games from the jam? If so, make sure you let me know in the comments and tell me about your favorite games from VimJam 4. And if you want to see even more of the games, there is a link in the description to the submission list where you can play all of the games that were entered into the jam. If you were a participant, I hope you learned something that will help you on your game dev journey, and I hope to see you at the next 8 Bits to Infinity jam, which will be running November 10th to 20th, so keep an eye on our Discord and your email for the announcement on that, and of course there will be an announcement on this YouTube channel. That's it from me. I am Retro Indie Josh. See you in the next one.